Hello, it's good to be with you to celebrate this important memorial to those 120,000 MEK members who've laid down their lives for freedom in their country of Iran, who've tried to make a better world for not only their neighbors and fellow Iranians, but for future generations that would not only make life better for those living in Iran, but would make life better for the world around Iran, which is constantly terrorizing the international community with threats of violence, terrorist threats. So it's so important that we remember who we are dealing with the mullahs in Iran, and we recognize that things really haven't changed since we saw these enormous massacres in 1988. These death squads, while at their peak in 1988, have continued on for every year since. Most recently, we saw it last year with the student uprising and all those young people who were murdered in the streets. And once again, we have seen it in attempts to bomb the MEK annual meeting, whether in Albania or in Paris. We have seen it in other tragic attacks and assassinations like that on Maryam Rajavi's brother-in-law. And I just want to say that we have become, in many respects, immune from all of this violence because we've come to expect this from the fascist dictators in Iran. That's a sad story about the state of affairs, that the world is accustomed to Iran behaving in a way that violates international norms of human rights and basic protections. It is for that reason that we must constantly remember that we remember because, as they say in history, for those who have never learned from history, they are doomed to repeat it. And how true that's been over the years since the mullahs first seized power, promising a revolution and instead delivering a dictatorship which has terrorized the people in Iran ever since. It really is worth noting that MEK members have been on the front lines. They have been the ones who have been the chief target of the Iranian regime. And there's no question as to why the Iranian regime continues to target MEK members. They know the MEK is organized. They know that the MEK is able to deliver. They know the MEK stands for a platform in Maryam Rajavi's 10-point plan that really challenges the very core of who they are. This is the 10-point plan that guarantees democracy, human rights, separation of church and state, the protection of all of those civil liberties that have been too often denied over the years. And so these are the reasons why we gather, to remember those MEK members who've laid down their lives, the scores of members who were attacked and killed, first in Camp Ashraf, and then, of course, in Camp Liberty, and the denial of medical supplies, the choking off of supplies in general, and the incessant threats and real attacks by the proxies of the Iranian regime in Iraq through their Iraqi government. There has been no doubt that the Iranian government has continued to pursue the MEK wherever they can because they know of the power that the MEK has. They know their ability to deliver a tremendous message throughout Iran about what is really going on within Iran because of the lack of freedom of press. The MEK has provided that kind of coverage that Iranians really don't otherwise ordinarily get. And this has sustained a great fervor for freedom, because once Iranians get to see how many of their fellow countrymen are also feeling that level of frustration at how their country is being governed, about how their economy is being driven into the ground, about how all of the budget and the rich resources of Iran are being used to prop up dictators like Assad and Hezbollah. It is no surprise that the people of Iran are frustrated and are protesting in the streets. They don't like the double standard and the hypocrisy of the mullahs, who wrap themselves in religious garb and yet flaunt all of the decrees that make Islam a religion like other religions that really respects the human being and the importance of the communion with the divinity. This is a universal respect for human life, and the mullahs have no respect, and they continue to torture and imprison and execute. They are the number one country in the world for the percentage of their people that they execute. So you almost don't need to say any more about the country, because any government that does that to their own people has no legitimacy whatsoever. So I just want to remember those that have died on this historic anniversary, but also to remember all the others over this period of decades that have also laid down their life to bring Iran into a newer freedom that will happen. And when that day comes, and it will come, we will have an opportunity to bring about the kind of democracy and flourishing economy that is so befitting of such a proud people, where civilization really got its start with the Persian people and the great introduction of civilization through the Persian people. So this is really Iran being cast outside what it was destined to be. It was destined to be able to use its great natural resources, which are its people, and combine it with the great riches of its natural resources, and to promote a level of civilization and education that has always marked the history of the Iranian people. I am so proud to work with you to promote this great cause, and I am also proud to say, Man Irani Hastam. These aren't just Iranian issues, they're human rights issues, they're issues for all of us to stand up for. These are not just Iranians who are being killed. They're not just MEK members, they're human beings. And all of us as human beings need to speak out when such injustices and atrocities continue to take place. Thank you for allowing me to join this commemoration.